Yeah.
Ready? Okay. Good morning, everyone. How are we doing? Wait a minute, what? How are we doing? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kate Yancho. I use pronouns she, her, and I'm the executive director of Wellspring, Cori, and Dancers. We are the sponsors and hosts and producers of the Midwest Regional Alternative Dance Festival, which kicks off this Thursday. We have over 180 artists coming to Kalamazoo from all over the world. We will have performances Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings. We have a Sunday matinee that features all youth performers. We will also have a free film screening at the Kalamazoo Public Library on Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. that shows our screen dance selected works, which we'll also be previewing here on Friday night as part of Art Hop. So if you're art hopping, be sure to hop here and then hop over to the Epic Center where we will have some stuff going on as well. But we are honored to put together this event. This is the 15th anniversary of the Midwest Regional Alternative Dance Festival. And I almost tear up thinking about how proud I am that we are able to provide this space for so many artists to have a professional stage and an amazing audience to perform for, because these artists are dynamic and virtuosic and just so inspiring in so many ways. So I encourage you to check out the festival that is happening this weekend. Amaya and I are here and we'll be around afterwards. If you'd like to get tickets, we do have tickets still available and we are able to do that on site today. But the purpose of our gathering today is to celebrate these amazing artists. So they are part of our RADicle Residency program, which is a collaboration it's a nature-based residency between RAD Fest and the Croft Residency, which is located in Horton Bay, Michigan. It's a nature-based residency. Get my notes together here. The selected dance artist creates a work at the Croft in the fall, and then that work premieres in RAD Fest in March. So we've been working with Amanda and her team for quite some time to bring this work to the stage this weekend, and we're really excited. So let me introduce to you Amanda Ramirez, pronouns she, her, is a Chicago-based dancer, movement director, and choreographer who creates genre-bending performance works centered around the Chicana culture. Ramirez is a graduate of Texas Tech University and has performed professionally throughout the country, spanning from theater, modern contemporary dance, improvisation, Latin dance, salsa, and flamenco. Since 2016, Amanda has presented original choreographic works throughout the Midwest at Lynx Hall, Loyola University, College of Lake County, the Croft, and more. She has directed, choreographed, and produced several evening-length shows, with her latest title, Nuestra Tierra, which will premiere at RAD Fest 2024. She is currently in post-production for her first dance film, Tierra, which she directed, produced, and choreographed. She is recognized as a choreographic grant recipient of Women Who Create, Cliff Dwellers, and more, and is a recipient of several choreographic residencies and fellowships, including Chicago Cultural Center, Lynx Hall, Colorado Missions, the Croft, Chicago Dance, Keshet Makers Experience, Synapse Arts New Works, and more. In 2021, she began her certification in intimacy, direction, and coordination for theater and film with IDC professionals. But I'd also like to introduce you to Lawrence E. Brown III, who was born and raised in El Paso/Juarez border region. Began playing drums at the age of 5. Brown's musical projects and undertakings bring a fusion mix to the table that harkens memories back to a time when jazz, hip-hop, and social awareness were a natural combination. Brown strongly believes in creating music that will make the world a better place. In his own words, I love being a student of the music. It's good for the ego. I like to cross boundaries between different genres in a respectful way. Lawrence, who has been blind since birth, uses both a dog guide and a cane. He is passionate about educating future generations of blind students about orientation and mobility. And Lawrence will be joining Amanda for this talk today about their collaborative work. That's enough of me. Please welcome Amanda and Lawrence.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. We're thrilled to be here. Like Kate mentioned, I am Amanda, and this is Lawrence. And we're here today to talk to you about our collaboration on 2 different projects. Like Kate had mentioned, we collaborated together on a dance film earlier this year titled Tierra. And then for the Croft Residency, in partnership with RAD Fest, we created a performance piece titled Nuestra Tierra, which is it's kind of a sister piece to the film. So how I want to start this off is, in order to know more about the performance piece, we have to go back to the dance film. So Lawrence and I are both from El Paso, Texas. It is very much a fundamental part of who we are as artists and how we create. Has anyone here been to El Paso? Well, you gotta go.
Get down there.
It's the best.
Yes.
El Paso, Texas is a border town. It's the furthest west you can go in Texas, and it's kind of in the middle of New Mexico. It is surrounded by mountains and desert, and it's in the Chihuahuan Desert region. And being from that area, it is on the Mexican border. So we are a largely Mexican community, Mexican-American community. And so being from that city, I always talk about, it's kind of this weird anomaly where I live in the United States, but I feel like I'm from somewhere else. Yes. Something that's not necessarily Mexico, it's not the United States, it's this weird in between.
Yes.
The people are very much Mexican, the way we eat, the way we talk, the way we celebrate, who we are as people, the way I'm talking right now, it's always given that. We're always given that I'm always given that Latina in me in anything we do. And with that comes community, comes family, music, and dance and art. And so being so inspired from that region, specifically through community, family, the cultural aspects of music and dance, it's always informed who we are as artists. And so to talk a little bit about the dance film Tierra, this was a film that was inspired during the pandemic. I'm somebody who, as many people know, Latin communities were super family oriented. I see my entire extended family every week when I'm home. We are very much involved with who our families are and who our communities are. We're raised by our communities. And so I live currently in Chicago, Illinois, and during the pandemic, couldn't go home. And there was this very strange sense of longing that I really felt the need to go deeper on. It wasn't that I just missed my family, that I missed my friends, that I missed the community, the food. There was something more. I decided to try to investigate what that is. What is this feeling like this? It literally felt like there was a string attached to my heart that was just pulling like ever so slowly, just like wanting me to come back. There's this energy behind it. And so I started as an artist diving into that. And what does that mean? To me, that means, well, the people have energy, the food has energy, music, dance, energy. And it's not just the people who are living, it's who have passed before us. I believe that when we pass, our energy lives in the land forever. You can't take that away. And so that's why when people come to El Paso, they always talk about how it is this magical feeling. And people leave, they always come back. There's something magical about it. And I believe it's that energy that I was speaking on. So I felt the need to really dive into it. What could this be? How can I explore more of this? And I decided to create a film around it. Finding your way back home, finding your way back to your roots, to your family, to your community. Lawrence, do you have anything you want to talk about for El Paso?
Yeah, absolutely.
The mic's right in front,
okay.
To the left.
Okay,
right
there we go. So as Amanda said, we are the heart of the borderland. If any of y'all have been to San Antonio, Texas, they like to say on their shirts that they're the gateway to Mexico. Well, they're wrong. It's us. And many other southern border towns as well. But there is a lot more going on than just the Mexican-American tradition. Of course, that comes with, of course, a lot of Spanish traditions, the way that we live near many towns in New Mexico that are built in the Spanish style. But then we have this paradox, this contradiction that we have this peaceful, laid-back sort of vibe, but we also have the Army base, Fort Bliss, headquarters Fort Bliss. And so we've always had folks from Germany, folks from Puerto Rico, the Middle East, Korea, coming and making their home and deciding to stay and deciding to more importantly, in some ways for us, assimilate into our community. They don't actually keep themselves. It's not like there's just pockets where we have just cultures that keep to themselves. No, they want to be a part of this space. Now, it's important to remember that El Paso is in the desert, and so we'll come back to this later. But the desert informs our way of life. It informs the times we can be outside because it's 105 degrees sometimes, and we need to stay inside. It informs the fact that we get to go hike in the mountains, and we get to be in nature. We get to spend time outside in this kind of dry openness that makes us very hospitable. If any of y'all have experience in the Middle East or with Bedouin folks or anything like this, you'll know that some desert cultures are some of the most hospitable on the planet. So that's what I have to add. Do you have something else to add, Amanda?
Yeah. So speaking more about, now about the influence of the film, a lot about the influence of where we're from. Now we're going to talk a little bit about how Lawrence and I came together to create what was the sound score and the dancing. So I'm a dancer, I'm a choreographer. Lawrence is a musician and composer. And so when telling a story through film, dance is such a in so many different directions. We don't have limited to dialogue. And so through this, as we were collaborating, we really wanted to take this inspiration, the story that I had, this initiating point of the inspiration, and also the stories of the people and the music that they played and the dances that they danced for centuries and for years. How can we bring alive that energy I was speaking about, and how can we put it into this film through generations of music, generations of dance? And so we started brainstorming. Okay, I was reaching out to a lot of different professors on the border, like what is the influential music and the influential dance that comes from this area? And I know a lot of it, but I wanted to go deeper on it. And so I would have these meetings with different professors telling me the influence of where all these things came from. For instance, a big one is the polka in the northern Mexican region, Chihuahuan region, that comes straight from Germany. And there's a lot of different influences like that. So I started to learn much more deeply on what these things are and how we can put them into the dance and into the music. And from there, we also started, Lawrence is a jazz musician. I'm an experimental performer and choreographer. So we can't just take some of the music and add it. We got to deconstruct, we got to create, we got to really get into it and feel it and put a part of ourselves into it. So we would go in and we would talk like, okay, what's influential to your family? What's influential to my family? Bring it personal, because this is a personal piece. It has to come from the heart. So what were some of the songs that I grew up dancing to on a Saturday morning while we were cleaning the house with my mom and she's playing Selena and cumbias and all of this stuff? That's the stuff that comes from us. So we started to pull some of that, and we would start to like deconstruct. So I would talk to Lawrence about, okay, can we pull this one accordion note from this mariachi song? Can we pull this one drum beat from this type of cumbia? Can we do this? Can we do this? Because I'm a dancer. I don't speak that language, but I know that what I wanted to feel like. And so figuring out how we could communicate was really, really such an interesting way of how this entire piece formed. So I'll let you talk more about the music.
Sure. So musically, El Paso, very diverse place. We've got the military base, we've got the border, we have the railroads. And so subsequently, from a musical standpoint, I grew up as a big hip hop head. I grew up listening to cumbia on Saturday morning. That is ubiquitous. I think it goes even beyond Mexican households. And if we got any Latinos, Latinas, Latinx folks here in the room, you know what that's like. You throw on some jams, clean, get moving. And we've got Arabic music. And so the drums that I chose and the rhythms that I chose each represented a space in the El Paso collective consciousness, so to say. A space where all of us as El Pasoans could be represented. The theme that happens is that when you come to El Paso, it doesn't matter where you're from. We're happy to have you, and we want to make it feel like home. And so finding all those things, putting them together, and then working with another composer, my esteemed Amanda who is Syrian. She has been living in New York and working in the New York scene for some time in New England and so on and so forth. And she was the contact point for me with Amanda Ramirez, because I had no idea about this film until the other composer reached out to me and said, hey, I know you said you wanted to work together for a long time, and it's this film about El Paso, and she wants, you know, some pre-Columbian rhythm, some this, some that, some hip hop, and you're the guy. And I said, sure. And that's how I ended up on the project. And as Amanda just stated, we spent a lot of time brainstorming, a lot of time speaking. Polkas, we both have that type of heritage. I thought the polkas would make it. They didn't, but certain rhythms did. Cumbia did make it. The Middle Eastern rhythms did make it. Even some of the African type of rhythms that would have made their way up and diffused through Mexico and even come down through the Black American community in El Paso, they made it in. And that is how we were able to, as Amanda just stated, deconstruct so that we could then reconstruct to tell this story, which I think it's important now to move to the film and the story behind the story, as it were.
Thank you. And so as we have the musical side where we talked about deconstruction and reconstruction, we also have that for the dance side, right? We actually started, I don't know if we mentioned this, we started off with music first, which is sometimes a little unconventional for dance. Sometimes people want to start getting into the dance first. Dance was probably the last element of the film. We started really early on with creating what the music would sound like, the production elements of the film. And so then once we got to the dance, we did the exact same thing. Music really, really, truly informed how I would approach the other elements of the film. So with dance, we did the same thing. There's some influential dance. Can we take just one step from that? Can we take the formation changes that are seen in those types of works? Can we take the foot rhythms and really trying to, and also I also come from a modern and contemporary background as well. So how can I infuse that part of myself too? Because I come from a fusion background. Lawrence comes from a fusion background in his music, and so does El Paso generally. It's kind of us really speaking to who we are as a people.
Yes.
Like we are this melting pot. And so that's how we approach it. Really, really illuminating, because now I feel like we have this formula to go forward, and which we'll talk about with the performance piece as well, on this deconstruction to reconstruction pathway. And also how it could be personal. Lawrence, I'd love for you to talk about the day we recorded. You had talked about the Matachin memorial that you went to. That
Sure.
was like informed more of the piece as well.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple of things. One of the downsides to living in El Paso is that we undersell ourselves. In Spanish, we have a saying that, or just a phrase that we use when people we think that people are thinking too highly of themselves. And that is, ¿Quién te crees? Who do you think you are? And sometimes we're the first to say, oh, there's no talent in El Paso. And I have a story that I have two stories. I'll make them brief, that speak to the fact that nothing could be further from the truth. So the day that we recorded the film score, we had an excellent day in the studio, wonderful recording session. I started setting up the drums at around 9 a.m. We finished rolling tape at about 5 p.m. Went to the house, did a mix down of everything. Amazing day. Everybody takes off. Amanda takes off. My engineer, producer takes off. And I get on Facebook and I see that one of my dearest mentors had passed. Now, this is important because he was born in Artesia, New Mexico, not far from El Paso, and raised in El Paso, and called himself an El Pasoan. His name is Mac Goldsberry. Mac Goldsberry is a world-renowned saxophonist, woodwind wizard, and he made his way from El Paso to the University of North Texas, got out of the University of North Texas, toured with Stevie Wonder, Prince, Elvin Jones, played with Sarah Vaughan. The list goes on and on and on. This man who he has played with. And I hadn't spoke to him in a few years. I hadn't spoken to him in a couple of years, and he was living in Palmdale, California. And during the pandemic, we lost touch. And I never saw the last message that he sent me, and I never responded. And that tears me up to this day, because here's a guy who did so much for the community, ran a music conservatory, a jazz program, and retired in California and couldn't come home one more time to hang with his friends, which I know Mac, and I know that's what he would have liked to do, to go eat some chilaquiles at the Riviera on the west side, a Mexican restaurant, and hang with his buddies. Now, the second story is, this kind of goes more into the performance piece and out of the film, but I'll go for it anyway. When I was recording for the film score, I didn't have access to Native American indigenous drums from my region. And so what I did, I'm a drum set player most of all, above all the other percussion things that I play drum set. And so I took the floor toms, the tom-toms that sit on the ground, and I got 3 or 4 of them. I put them together, and I was playing with 2 sticks in each hand so that I could sort of get to a place where I sounded like a troupe of indigenous drummers from the border region. And it made me really sad that I didn't have access to actual indigenous drums. Well, fast forward a couple months, and I went to a cousin's memorial service. And that cousin is from the side of my family that is very heavily indigenous. And he wanted something called matachines to come and play for his memorial service. They drum, they dance. There's an element of a blending between the Christian European culture and the indigenous spiritual cultures in a way that is very unique to the border region. And hearing those drummers and hearing them play on these drums that look like trash cans with like drum heads on top, and hearing the rhythms that I'd been hearing all my life and taken for granted, and being saged alongside my family as we honored my departed cousin, that energy informed how I would move forward into the performance piece that we developed here in Michigan. So those are my 2 stories. Yeah.
So yeah, as you can see, to bring it back, heavily personal, heavily ancestral, historical, and communal, and collaborative. And so with all of that said, we want to show you want to show you one of the sections of the piece. And in the piece, why don't you tell them what to look out for, what kinds of sounds they might hear?
Sure. So you're going to hear vocals come in, and the piece is primarily, just about a certain character. And so you'll hear Amanda Eckery, the other composer, my colleague's voice come in, and then you'll hear samples come in. You'll hear some clapping. You'll hear, and those I sampled on a drum machine because I make hip hop beats as well. And then you'll hear an Arabic drum. It's called a doumbek. It's widely used in the Middle East and around that region of the world. And then you'll hear timbales. Now, timbales are really associated with Afro-Cuban music, cumbia, tribal, those kinds of things. And the timbal solo that comes in, the drum solo that you hear is on those drums and is meant to kind of inspire the lead dancer and all the dancers to really just give their all. And so then the last piece that you'll hear is a sample. Now, for those that are not aware of samples, you just cut a little piece of music and you sample it. You can make a new beat or a new rhythm or a new anything out of it. And it was very important to us. The polkas didn't make it, but one thing that did make it in was the mariachis. And the mariachi sample that I used, I wanted to sample a local group, and not just any local group. I wanted to sample Los Mineros, which is the miners, the UTEP miners, and they're the mariachi ensemble for the University of Texas at El Paso. So when you hear these little trumpet and violin hits, those are all made by young local El Paso talent. So there you go.
Great. Can we play that sample? Or is it on the computer?
Does it go on the stage?
It did.
Okay. Was it great? Okay, there you go.
Okay.
I think out of all the pieces that we scored, this one we spent the most time getting right. There's that Middle Eastern drum. Got some hip hop kick drum going. And there's those samples. That's a giant moment in the film. And then it fades out.
Yeah, so wasn't that great?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So from all of that, that's how it all came together. That was just one of 3 different musical composition sections that we had. This moment was in the film a little bit about the narrative. It's about a person who, from El Paso, who's at a low point in their life, drives out, gets in their car, starts to drive, ends up in the middle of the desert. And in that experience, they have a very surreal and ancestral experience in the desert that brings them back ultimately to their roots, to their community. And it's almost kind of a story about my own life too, like what I spoke about earlier. It's kind of mimicking how I've been able to come back and create art that's influenced by where I'm from. So we filmed this piece in May of last year, 2023. Now to go on to the performance piece, we, which is what you'll, if you come on Friday, which y'all should, you'll be able to see it on Friday. We had a residency through the Croft in Horton Bay, Michigan. Beautiful town, oh my goodness, it was amazing. And all partnered with the Croft Residency, and it was this enormous outdoor dance space that we got to dance outside of for 2 whole weeks. We got to live together, eat together, and create together. And so when we approached, we had just came off the heels of creating this film. There's so much energy. It was such an enormous undertaking. And then a couple months later, now we have a performance piece to make that's kind of inspired by this film. And going into the residency, I'd say the only thing I came in knowing is the questions I wanted to ask were the ancestors that our main character meets in the film. I wanted to know, who are they? What were their relationships to each other? What were they doing? What did they eat every day? What were their hobbies? Like, I wanted to know who they were and what were their relationships. And I think a lot of that is almost my own wanting to know more about where I'm from. You know, it's kind of like there's this like personal pulling in everything that we do. Because unfortunately, like many other Latin people, we all migrated, and we are people who tell stories like this. We didn't always have documentation, and when we were migrating, a lot of the things that were documented were ruined, or we weren't allowed to bring them with us. So I don't have a lot of my personal history, maybe up to like my great-grandparents, but that's about it. And so when we came together in this residency, I had that question, who were these people? And in the film, we talked about the inspiration of culture and land and community on a general standpoint. In the performance piece, I wanted to go personal, I'd say hyper personal. And so in asking those questions, how can I learn more about where I'm from? Well, as a dancer, and I believe dance is incredibly powerful. I think it's probably the most powerful thing you can do is, you know, when you're on the dance floor and something just comes over you and there's this energy and you're like, who am I? There's power in that. There's energy in that. And I believe you can do things with that energy. And so through what that idea of what dance means and wanting to know more about who our ancestors can be, I believe we can bring out the stories of the people before us through dance, through music, through meditation and journaling. So when we came together at the residency, we all came together and we're like, Lawrence, where did you come from? If you don't know it, let's make it up. Let's find it within our bodies. Justin was one of the people who was at the residency. We'd ask them personally, how can we go deep? How can we remember the stories that are inherently in us? They live there. We just have to access them. And so that's what we did. That process was accessing what those stories are through dance, through music, through journaling, meditation, and through being in nature, being in a beautiful space. Honestly, it was very inspiring. So we went hyper-personal. And through that, it was very emotional. The things that came up, I had no idea some of that stuff lived within me, within some of the dancers, within the musician. It was very, very intense. There were some things that we did not know was going to come up. There's pain, there's joy, there's so much, and it all came through the power of dance. And so as we were exploring more of that, we then also wanted to know, okay, we almost came up with little characters of who these people were. We had a characterization to them. And through that, we started to bring in music. What could that music look like? What did the music that they listened to? Who these people were, what did they listen to? What did they dance to? And so in how we decided to show what this piece is because it's hyper-personal, it was formatted in solos. So everybody has the chance to tell their story. And so I worked with each of the dancers and the musician to find what that story is. And it ultimately came from them. Like I said, super personal. And they have the opportunity in the piece to express, to be that person, to tell that story. And I believe those stories are very, very real. They were very real to me, and I know they're very real to everybody who was a part of this piece. So if you come on Friday, you'll be able to see each of us tell our stories. And so when we worked with Lawrence on what the music could look like, do you want to talk more about that?
Sure. Yeah. So Once again, big shouts go out to Ben Cheney and the Croft Residency. The property was phenomenal, and Ben found us gear that we could use. If you come this Friday, I'm using that exact same gear once again. So thanks again for that. And I'm using a loop pedal, so you can make loops out of, phrases, melodies, rhythms, and putting all those things together with the cajon and the doumbek, I was able to help with the world building process a bit and go deeper into this world that was already built in tierra and make it Nuestra Tierra, our land. And the beautiful, let me just say, nothing compares to Michigan in the summer. What a break from the desert. That'll just bring it out of you. And it'll make you say, man, I really do come from a very dry place. There's no water where I come from.
We're so moisturized here.
Yeah, my skin's doing great. And helped us to tell those stories. One of the things that I encountered, first of all, was that when I was scoring the film, I had no idea who the dancers were. And so in the residency, I was able to meet Jensen and Rebecca and meet them and put some personalities to these folks that I had composed for, at least a couple of them, in a very intimate way. As Amanda shared, ancestral recall, whatever you may think about it, is a very difficult process. It's not glamorous oftentimes. And for me, we spent time having the dancers play and interact with the drums. They were great sports, and they helped me carry the drums to the platform in the middle of the forest where we were practicing. And also, I know a lot about my family history. I don't know as much as I could know, but I know a lot. I know enough to know that part of my ancestry were slaves, and part of my ancestry owned slaves. And my goal was not to apologize for any of that, and to just bring that forward and try and bring the best out of the dancers with authenticity, and to let them live and feel through their joy, through their pain, through the laughter, through the tears, and have them interact with me and say, that when you play that drum, it makes me feel a certain way, and that's just a lot for me. And to know, I come from a church background. I'm a worship leader at home, and you always hope that your music moves people, but sometimes you're not ready when it does. I know, at least I wasn't in a certain way. It's one thing when your music moves someone to tears, and it's another when your music moves them to tears. You know what I'm saying? So, coming from that, I was able to learn that what I do actually does have a certain power, a certain gravity, that I spend a lot of time playing Girl from Ipanema and Fly Me to the Moon in restaurants where they just want to see me play. It's not even about hearing the sound. It's like decoration. And to go from that to where every note that you're playing is being felt is a very profound experience as an artist. And I'm very thankful to Amanda and to her, this team that she has assembled, for allowing me to step into that. So what else do you want to share?
I wanted to share one thing that I forgot, so let me take it back just a bit. When we were going through this, the creation process of this, one very interesting modality that came out was, because we're from El Paso, we're creating a piece that's inspired by that area and by those people, but we're in Michigan. Like, it couldn't be more different. How can we find that inspiration in a place that you're not from? And so we started to, through some of our meditations, I would have all of the artists fixate on a piece of land, whether that's one of the hills in the background, a rock that they could hold, the water, because we were on a lake, the piece of grass, the dirt. Find a piece of that and then just connect with it. And we would go back slowly. Okay, go back one generation, go back another. Can you imagine your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother? Maybe she stepped on this rock one day too. Maybe she's held this rock. Maybe this was a part of a mountain that she walked on one day. Maybe we've crossed paths somehow. And that's how we were able to go as far back so that we could have this emotional connection to then create the dance. So that was just one of the different modalities that we use that I really wanted to share. That was really, really powerful. And so using elements and the land to connect no matter where you are. I could be on a different part of the earth and maybe this water has been drank by somebody who's passed before that I know. It can work in that way sometimes, at least as a metaphor even. And so all in all, the film inspired by the land, the performance piece inspired by the people. And all of it comes together as being just very, very El Paso. that is our golden point there. And it really does just bring this new light to who we are, to where we come from. I have such a new, profound appreciation for my culture, for the artistry that this culture brings, and to be able to create in this unique way, to tell our own version of it, is incredible. Because yes, we can do folklorico dancing, we can learn from the traditions, but to also create our own is so powerful. It's so powerful. And it was amazing that we had the opportunity to do it twice in 1 year. To do that twice, that's unheard of, to have the support to do that. And so we're so grateful for the people that made that happen for us, RAD Fest and the Croft. And so we wanted to touch a little bit on how the music and dance worked in a performance piece.
Yes.
So one thing is we are dancers dancing live, and Lawrence is performing live. So he is performing live all the time. And normally when dance is happening and we have somebody who's playing music live as well, they know what to do next because they have visual cues. Now Lawrence is blind, so we had to come up with a new way of how can we get Lawrence to come in to know what we're doing, to feel what we're doing, so that he knows what to do next. So one, we have auditory cues. We have clapping, little snaps, stomping, a lot of different things. But for a 30-something minute piece, there's so many cues.
There's a lot.
He's incredible to figure that out. And one of the processes that we did came from, so that's for the performance, but how did we do it in rehearsal? How did we figure out how to include Lawrence in this way so he could feel exactly what's happening as we were improvising, as we were going through all of these different exercises to connect? How would he be able to see that? So Lawrence, you want to talk about that?
Sure, yeah. So how many of you have, when you're watching on your preferred streaming service, turned on audio description by accident, and then you hear bold red letters appear on a black screen? Right.
Netflix.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I brought forward is that, there's this wonderful industry of audio description for blind folks, and we can experience film in a whole new way because it's an art form of people who are really describing this stuff well. So at first we put this into practice by having each of the dancers practice describing what the other dancers were doing to me. So then after that, we went further and reached out to Ben, and Ben had the dancers kind of were describing things from a very mechanical standpoint. The left foot does this, and then the hips do that, but then Ben came in, and Ben has a bit of a musical background, and I don't know that this factored in. He's an excellent dancer, and the way that he described things it was beyond the literal, and it got deep into what was actually being done.
Poetic.
Very poetic, exactly. Very, very poetic in nature. and very grounded in the movement, but also in what he knew that I could experience. So then that just opened up a whole other avenue. And Ben brought a couple other friends over, they described. And so what ends up happening when this happens is not only am I living with these dancers, working with them, cooking, eating, cleaning up, all the different things, but then I'm building up a memory bank of what their movements are for each one. I know that Amanda does these certain things. I know that Jensen does these certain things. I know that Rebecca does these certain things, and so on and so forth. And so then as we keep working together, the guesswork gets less and less, because I know that Becca is going to throw her back out being extra on the dance floor. I know that Amanda's going to tap into the hips more, and Jensen's going to be doing very powerful things in the hands. Those are things that I learned over time. And so then I could match the music to that live through the solos, which we will see when you show up on Friday. So, yeah.
And then one last piece I wanted to share about this is one of the things I wanted to explore in a performance piece that has a musician and dancers on stage is typically in a dance performance piece, the musician's on the side and is kind of like what Lawrence talked about earlier. It's like a decoration. It's just there to play live, but isn't really a part of the piece. That happens quite often. And Lawrence is doing all of these exercises with us. He's going as deep as all of us. We're all a part of this. There's only 4 of us. We are going really, really deep. Why would I not want him to be a part of the piece, a part of the performance of it? So we had to figure out, okay, how can I blend that world so that it doesn't feel like it's so separate? How can we come together so that it's you are a part of the piece. We are a part of the piece. We're the musicians. You're the dancer. You're the dancer. We're the musicians. And I'm still working on it. It's something that I left there going, I want to work harder on it. We can do more. We can go deeper. But it was a really good entry point to start to try and to come to a place where I feel like we really did blend the typical musician and dancer roles when it comes to live dance performance. So you also will see that when you come on Friday at 7 p.m.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a little over 10 minutes. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, me. Yes.
Have people in El Paso seen your film?
So the film is still in post-production. We finished filming in May, so we're still editing right now. It'll probably, my goal was for it to be ready by the end of the year, but then we got this residency opportunity and a few other opportunities. So it's, we're still editing. It'll probably be ready in the next couple of months is what I'm hoping for. And then we'll probably do some film circuits, film festival circuits, and then do a premiere in El Paso. Because I have to show it in El Paso. I'll do the premiere in El Paso, 100%. I'd love to, I have some people interested in Chicago to do a premiere, so it'll happen there. So yeah. RAD Fest 2025. Yes. Yes. Yes.
With the music, there was the chorus, and they were repeating a phrase. Was it language or not?
No.
Okay.
No, it was scatting.
I'm sorry?
It was scatting. That's where the jazz comes in.
I didn't recognize it as jazz.
No, yes. Just syllables.
Mm-hmm.
Amanda, do you want to tell them about kind of your feeling about that? Just a little bit about words and dance and trying to keep it not too wordy.
Oh, I have this thing where I try not to have a lot of words in dance because I love dance to just be the forward part of it. I'm exploring that now for the first time in another project I'm working on, which is very scary for me. But I like the dance to just live. I like the experimental feeling of just sounds and just having the dance, because a lot of times if we pull specific lyrics, sometimes I feel like people might have an experience with that lyric and it might pull them in a different direction when I'm trying to keep them in this world, So if I played like a Juan Gabriel song in the score, everyone's gonna go to their grandma and think that, I want them to stay here. Is there any other questions?
So I would say that you actually started experimenting with that on this project because there are some words. I'm saying words.
Yeah.
So I feel like this project was the entry point. I feel like this project was the entry point for Amanda to start experimenting because, like, I mean, there's only so much la da 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 that you can do before, and you know, I use as little words as I can, but there is a point in the piece where there is a chorus, and I'm singing the chorus, and you will probably be able to understand it. And then I do something called a pregon over the chorus, which is kind of like rapping, where you just talk a bunch of smack, you know, over the chorus, and you just say why you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. So that's what we're doing. You know, I had to do that to get the dancers hyped up because I don't know if I'm sure we did talk about it at some point, but there is that element of you got to talk your thing, and in Latin music where you got to get the hype up, and syllables and oohs and ahs at a certain point won't do it.
Mm-hmm. And even then, I would be like, Lawrence, make it
more
not as clear, like make it muddier. I don't want to know what you're saying. We came to an understanding point.
Yeah, a middle ground.
So now people can hear it and understand it, but it's a little muddy, which is perfect.
Chef's kiss.
Yes.
Can we see any hints of the dance, or any more music? I mean, now that you've whetted our appetite.
Come on back.
Come on Friday at 7 p.m. Yes. Yes. At Wellspring.
You guys made a good team.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. What's really interesting about this collaboration is it truly came out of nowhere. I was in Chicago learning about, I got a few film fellowships because I wanted to learn how to create film. And I wanted to learn about funding film. And so I was in a funding fellowship. And in that fellowship, there was about 15 of us that they accepted into it. And one of the questions that they asked on their first day was, everyone go around and say a need that you have. What is something that you need for your film? And I mean, there's so many. But for some reason, in Chicago, I said, I need a composer. Like, I knew I wanted to work on the music. I need a composer. I need to find someone, but they have to be from El Paso. That was the thing. Everyone that's in the piece is from El Paso. I'm the only one who doesn't currently live there. And Amanda Eckery, she lives in both. But I visit for months on end. So I'm kind of back and forth a lot. But when I was at that fellowship, I said that. And this girl comes up to me and she goes, crazy. I know someone from El Paso that I went to grad school with. She's a composer. She lives in New York, but she goes to El Paso all the time because she has a nonprofit for young jazz musicians in El Paso. She's incredible. She's also experimental like you. And then from there, she introduced me to Lawrence. And so, like, how interesting is that? How we came together in that way. Not even being like we've lived in this same place forever.
I didn't know Amanda before the film project.
Yeah, so isn't that so cool? Yeah. Unless there's any last minute burning questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you didn't catch that, they are performing at 7 p.m. on Friday as part of RAD Fest. We have some postcards in the back that have the full schedule. Wellspring Cori, Terry, and Dancers is also performing on that show, so you can see both a Cori Terry work as well as this work. Friday night at 7 o'clock. We can get your tickets today if you don't have them already, so please see Amaya in the back, grab a postcard. Another thing I want to bring your attention to, since this is you showed up here today, on Saturday afternoon at noon, we have a presentation happening in the Black Arts and Cultural Center, which is now on the first floor of the Epic Center, and it's a research presentation on African diasporic dance by Tamara Williams and Moving Spirits Dance Company. It's a free event as well, so you can just pop on in and listen to that presentation. There will be some performance as part of that as well. So please check out RAD Fest. I checked it before I walked up here. We have artists representing 5 countries and 13 states coming to Kalamazoo this weekend with their works being shown in Kalamazoo this weekend. So please take it in with us. It's a huge labor of love for us, and the community support is critical in continuing this project. So thank you again to Amanda and Lawrence, and we're so excited to see the work. So thank you.